Hello everyone. We want to give you guys some instructions on how to do your Trans-Sahara trade journal. We really want you guys to focus on the idea of a narrative. So the first thing that we want you guys to do is make sure that everything is in a first person. Whether you are doing a Bloxels presentation, meaning you're creating your own video game, or you're actually doing the writing, it's a first person point of view. You're going to incorporate lots of visuals on each slide and make sure that they are cited. If you're doing Bloxels, your visuals are your background and your foreground and things that are happening within the game. You need to make sure that you paraphrase and write your own words, and you need to proofread your work as well. So while you're writing your journal, we really want you to incorporate sensory words to help the reader imagine your surroundings and what you have experienced. And I'll go into detail with that in just a second. First person point of view in your journal, we should see you guys doing the I see, I feel throughout your journal entry. And it needs to be narrative writing. It has to be beginning, middle, and end. So maybe like something like a rising action, a climax, some problems, internal, external problems, a falling action, so on and so forth. You can also add dialogue into your journal. Okay. So let's talk a little bit deeper about what exactly it looks like. So if you're starting, you can choose to start north or south, just depending on which way you want to go. Either way, it doesn't matter. All the information is still available to you in Schoology. So if you are starting, whichever way you start, just keep in mind that's like your home base. So whether you're starting in Genu or Tripoli, it's your home base. So you want to describe the climate based on the vegetation zone that it's in. Describe your family, your friends, and your reasons for leaving. Because you don't just cross the Sahara because you want to cross it. You cross it because you're doing something. So what is it that you're trying to do? What's your goal? What are you trying to accomplish? So we're really looking to see, do you understand why people actually cross the Sahara? The first stop on your journey could either be a gold or oasis stop. We went over the oasis stop already. We talked about how it's Sijil Masa. And that's an oasis city within the Sahara. So you want to think about what happens at an oasis city. An oasis city has vegetation. It's in the middle of the desert. It has some water. It's a huge trading post that anything can be traded within. Your gold city is typically Wangara or like a stop in the south, so Walata or Timbuktu. But I mean, those are kind of like the big ones. So really what we do is explain what can be traded at this point based on the vegetation zones. So you'll need to take a look at the maps that are in Schoology, and I'll go over those in a little bit. This means that you cannot trade everything, but only what is available. Describe your surroundings based on the readings from Kingdom of Ghana in our geography section. So the next stops are, I mean, they're kind of copy and paste, they're carbon copy. It's just questions that you want to think you can answer. So every time you stop somewhere, so like the salt stop, we researched that. We already know that's Takaza. We know that the Kingdom of Ghana can be like Walata, which is not technically in the Kingdom of Ghana, but you can, or Kumbai, Salale. You can stretch it and do Timbuktu as well. Timbuktu really wasn't a part of it. It was more Mali, but that's okay. We'll accept that, knowing like some of you guys are trying to, you're kind of trying to actually follow the routes instead of just kind of suspending them, which is totally fine. If you really want to go authentic, Kumbai is where you're going to go for Ghana. The gold stop could be Wangara, like I said, and that's in the south. But either way, the city names will come to you based on your research. So the vegetation zones will come from your own research as well as looking at your vegetation zone map versus where it is on the actual maps that I show you in a minute. How did Ghana benefit from the Trans-Sahara trade? You guys know this. We did the research on it. We read about it. We talked about it. We did a whole simulation on it. And really, we want you to focus on why people trade. I told you guys that the idea of specialization and interdependence, you know it, we just haven't explicitly stated the definitions of it. When we talk about interdependence and we talk about trade, we're really talking about why we trade. And you're going to show that based on what you're trading with each other, what you're trading throughout your trade journal. Here's a great example from last year from a student who wrote theirs. They actually took the account from chapter 13 and added it in about the camels. I thought that was awesome. So if you're looking for some guidance, you can always read that. This is the Bloxels. This kind of shows what you're doing for each of the blocks. So if you are stuck at all, please check Schoology for all the different videos that I posted on how to use Bloxels. But this gives you a rundown of what each one can be used for. So green is your landscape. This is going to vary depending on your vegetation zone. So like when you're in the forest, your landscape is going to be more green. When you're in the desert, it's going to be more of a tan color. Orange is landscape you can blow up. And like, obviously, like this is suspending reality a little bit. So like, yes, we want you to be historically accurate, but we also know you're building a video game. So you can blow up the top of a sand dune or something like that. Pink, would be a power up. And this item is going to vary depending on your journey. So like with your power ups, you have the option to create like a health, unit, a weapon unit, a rocket ship, or a shrinking potion. So that's what it will become. But what it's going to present itself as is an item that you could trade. So for example, if I'm looking at something like so if I'm in the South and I have cola beans, I might make my power up look like a cola bean, but then that becomes a health unit to gather. Or if I want my person to, quote unquote, have a weapon, I can create a sword, because that's what swords were used during this time period, or some sort of spear. And that will be used as like, that's what it will present itself as. And then when you blow it up to get the item, it will then become like a little bomb. Okay. Blue is water. So water we should see definitely in the forest, definitely at an oasis. Stop. Enemies are purple, and these guys can move. These are the guys that can like move back and forth, back and forth. So you will create those using the animation tool, not creating a character, you're creating animation for that. Yellow is coins, and coins, they don't have to be coins. You can design them to look whatever you want. So like in mine, I make it look like a bag of gold or a bag of salt. And then white is your story block, and this is probably the most important one you need to have. You really need to make sure that you have your story blocks throughout it. It should be like the number one thing that you have, because you need to add in content. It's awesome that you're building these wonderful video games, but you also are talking about a time in history in which trade was incredibly important, and you need to demonstrate that using these story blocks. Finally, red is a hazard. So think of like a dust storm, a natural disaster. You could even put like scorpions or snakes or things like that to as a hazard. This was the reading that we did on Sejumasa and Batuta's journey south through the Sahara. So you can 100% use that as like inspiration towards a trade journal entry. And this is available in chapter 13. And again, this just is something that we're working on today. If you have questions, please feel free to reach out to me. We want to make sure that you guys are successful in creating this. Thank you so much.